I planned a family holiday. My wife sent one text that ended everything. What I did next, she never saw coming.
My name is Frederick Brandt, and I am a methodical man. I was born in Aarhus, Denmark, raised on the principle that a man earns his place in this world through patience, through quiet endurance, and through the kind of loyalty that does not bend when life applies pressure. My father built furniture by hand. My grandfather repaired watches. We were men who fixed things, men who stayed. So when I met Isabel at a conference in Lyon 12 years ago, her dark hair catching the afternoon light, her laughter cutting through the dull hum of industry conversation, I did what the men in my family always did with something precious. I held on carefully, I built around it, I made it the center of everything. We married 2 years later. We had 3 children, twin boys aged 7 and a daughter 5. I moved from Denmark to her country, Belgium, because she asked me to. I left my friends, my language, my landscape. I found work in Brussels as a logistics consultant, built a client base from nothing, and turned our modest apartment into a home with enough equity to matter. Everything I did for the 4 of them. I want to be clear about that, not for sympathy, just for accuracy. The cracks appeared, I suppose, before I was willing to see them. Isabel had joined a cycling group the previous spring, a weekend hobby she said helped her manage stress. I encouraged it. I stayed home with the children on Saturday mornings, made pancakes, let her have her hours of freedom. That is what a supportive husband does. That is what I believed. By autumn, the cycling group had a new member. I did not know his name then. I know it now, but it does not matter enough to give him space on this page. The holiday was Isabel's idea. A 2-week trip to Portugal with her family, her parents, her sister's husband. A big family gathering in the Algarve. We had discussed it for months. The children were excited. I had cleared my schedule, arranged client coverage, packed my bag. The message arrived on a Tuesday morning at 7:43. I remember the time because I had just poured my coffee and was checking the train schedule to her parents' house, where we were all meeting before heading to the airport the next morning. New plans, you're staying behind. The kids want their actual dad. I read it 3 times. Not because I did not understand the words. I understood them perfectly. I read it 3 times because I was giving myself the space to respond as a methodical man rather than a wounded one. I typed back, "What does this mean, Isabel?" Her reply came fast, which told me she had been holding this message for a while. It means what it says. The kids asked for their father. You can stay with them. I need this trip. I sat down. The coffee went cold. Outside, Brussels was doing what Brussels does in October, gray, functional, indifferent. I called her. She did not answer. I called again. This time she picked up, and I heard something in the background before she spoke. A voice low and male, and then the distinct sound of a door closing, as though she had stepped away from someone. "Frederick," she said, in the tone one uses with a predictable inconvenience. "Explain this to me," I said. "I just need space. The children are fine with you. You're their father. We planned this together. For 4 months. Plans change," I asked her directly then. I asked her about the voice in the background, about the cycling group, about the weekends that had stretched from 2 hours to 6 without explanation. I asked her calmly, because that is how I ask things, and I listened to every careful deflection she offered in return. She did not deny it. She did not confirm it either. She simply said, "I think we should talk when I get back," and ended the call. She ended the call. I sat in that kitchen for 23 minutes. I know because I watched the clock on the microwave. Then I stood up, rinsed my coffee cup, placed it on the drying rack, and began to think. I am, as I said, a methodical man. By 9 in the morning, I had called our bank and separated the joint account. My salary went into my personal account. The automatic payments, her gym membership, the streaming subscriptions registered in her name, the credit card attached to the joint account, I canceled each one individually, politely, efficiently. By noon, I had contacted a property agent I had worked with 3 years earlier when we briefly considered upsizing. She remembered me. I told her I needed to list the apartment. She asked when. I said this week. She arrived at 2 o'clock, walked through the rooms with professional composure, and told me we could have it on the market by Thursday. By 4 in the afternoon, I had called my sister in Aarhus. She said nothing for a long moment after I spoke and then said, "Come home, Frederick." I booked a train to Amsterdam, then a flight to Denmark. I packed 1 bag. I kissed my children, who were watching cartoons and did not fully understand why Papa was crying while he hugged them. I told them I loved them more than the whole of the North Sea. My daughter asked if I would be back for her school play. I told her I would not miss it for anything in this world. Then I walked out of the apartment and pulled the door shut behind me. Denmark received me the way it always does. Without ceremony, without judgment, with cold, clean air, and the particular silence of a place that has no interest in your drama. My sister Astrid lived in a small house outside Aarhus, close enough to the water that you could smell it from the garden. She met me at the door with coffee already made and the good sense not to ask too many questions that first night. We sat in her kitchen until past midnight, and she let me talk when I needed to talk and let me be quiet when I needed that instead. She is 4 years older than me and has always understood the difference. I slept for 11 hours. In the days that followed, I did what needed doing. I spoke with a Belgian family lawyer, a woman recommended by a colleague, over video call. I was honest with her about everything. She was honest with me in return, which I appreciated. She told me my position was stronger than I might have feared, that my consistent financial contribution, my established role as primary caregiver during Isabel's weekend absences, and the documentation I had already begun quietly gathering would matter. I had not even realized I'd been documenting things until she pointed out that I had. Dates, times, receipts. A methodical man leaves a methodical trail. Isabel messaged on the third day. A single line, "Where are you?" I did not respond. She called that evening. I watched the phone ring. On the fourth day, her mother called. I answered that one, because her mother is a decent woman who deserved the courtesy of a response. She sounded confused, then uncomfortable, then quietly devastated in the way that mothers become when they realize they raised a child who is capable of a particular cruelty. She apologized to me. I told her it was not her fault and that I hoped we would remain in contact for the sake of the children. She began to cry softly. I waited until she composed herself. We ended the call with mutual respect intact. On day 5, Isabel's messages changed tone. They became longer, then urgent. Then by the end of the first week, something close to alarmed. The apartment listing had apparently appeared in her property alerts. We had set those up together years ago, searching for investment opportunities, and she had seen it that morning. The message that followed was not a message so much as a wall of text, capitalization shifting in the way that reveals genuine panic underneath rehearsed anger. I read it, I saved it. I responded with 3 sentences. I have engaged a lawyer. All correspondence regarding the children should go through her office. I trust you are enjoying Portugal. I will not pretend that did not feel satisfying. I am a patient man, not a saint. What I had not anticipated, what broke through my composure in a way that none of the rest of it had managed, was a voice message from my youngest, my daughter, sent from Isabel's phone. 47 seconds of a 5-year-old explaining that she had found a shell on the beach that she was saving for me, that it had a pink inside, and that she missed me and hoped I was eating properly because Papa sometimes forgot lunch. I listened to it 4 times in Astrid's garden, standing in the cold with my hands in my pockets, and I allowed myself to feel the full weight of what had been done to our family. Not to me, to all of us. To those 3 children who had done nothing except love both their parents without condition or calculation. That was the moment I understood what the next chapter had to look like. Not revenge in the theatrical sense, I am not built for theatrics, but the kind of quiet, permanent restructuring that ensures a man like me never again builds his entire world inside someone else's choices. They returned from Portugal on a Sunday afternoon. I know this because the lawyer's assistant called to inform me that Isabel had attempted to access the apartment and found the locks changed, a standard step in the listing process, authorized by me as the primary mortgage holder. She had called the agent. The agent had referred her to the lawyer's office. The lawyer's office had referred her to the formal separation documentation that had been filed that Thursday. I was told she sat down in the building hallway. I felt nothing vengeful about that, only a kind of sorrowful clarity. I flew back to Brussels 10 days later, not to the apartment, but to a short let near the children's school. I was there when my daughter's school play opened on Wednesday evening. I sat in the 3rd row. She spotted me from the stage before the lights went down, and her face did something that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. Isabel was there too. We did not speak. We did not need to. The man from the cycling group, I later learned, had not attended the Portugal trip after all. Something had apparently shifted between them in those final days before departure. I did not dwell on this. It was my story to carry. Mine was simpler and harder and ultimately better. My name is Frederick Brandt. I am a methodical man. I build things carefully. And when something cannot be repaired, I have finally learned that the most honest thing you can do is set it down, walk out into the cold air, and begin again. The shell with the pink inside sits on my windowsill. My daughter put it there herself. That is enough.
I am the quietest man in the room, but I made the loudest noise. I walked away and I won.